Hello everybody, very good afternoon. Welcome to Racing TV. First things first, I hope you're fit, well and healthy, and we hope to bring a little bit of cheer to you over the next hour and a half by looking back at what happened in the racing world in 2015. We, as ever, would like your interaction with us. You can email us, studio@racingtv.com, or get in touch via social media. @RacingTV is our Twitter hashtag if you want to get in touch and ask us anything you want to whatsoever, but in particular, tell us what your favourite races of 2015 were. As ever, we exist in a bubble as far as racing is concerned. Let's put that bubble into some context. 2015 was a year when the Queen became the longest serving monarch since Queen Victoria. David Cameron gained a second term in office at Downing Street. For the Tories, Manny Pacquiao, he fought Floyd Mayweather in a fight that was deemed the fight of the century. And unfortunately, the Parisian shootings claimed 130 people. And the ICC World Cup cricket took place in Australia and New Zealand, and was won by Australia. That puts the racing world into some context. What happened in that racing world? Here's a taster.
Here's the final flight now, and it's Faheen and Ruby Walsh, clear by 3 lengths. Arctic Fire is stablemate is after him, but it's Faheen who's bounding clear up the hill, and he is a machine. Faheen maintains his unbeaten record, and it's a treble for Willie Mullins and Ruby Walsh. Faheen's a champion.
Mafiela's in second place, John Spear behind this, and then comes Ed Ward and Dom Cossack running on, but it's going to be a festival winner for AP. Alexandra has made most of the running and has won it from miles out, wins by a good 3 or 4 lengths.
Carried towards the last by the roars of the crowd, comes in one final leap over from Road to Riches and Jack Adam, and now the hill for the novice, Kody Green. The jumping's behind him, wandering to the right on his own. Jack Adam on the far side, Kody Green off a straight line, still in front, Jack Adam on the far side, and Kody Green, inexperienced, no object, a novice, the first for 40 years, won the Gold Cup.
Many clouds, and Lake Naskell 4, maybe 5 lengths ahead of Centaur. Monbeg Dude is still staying on stoutly, has moved to third and then shut the front door. Many clouds, Centaur is trying to get on turn, cutting him back near the line. Many clouds clinging on tenaciously from St. R in the colours of Trevor Hemmings. It's Many Clouds who wins the Grammys Grand National.
Glen Eagles come towards the stand side, Territories is out after him, Ivorwood down the centre of the course. Glen Eagles to Ivorwood in second place. Bossy Guest running a huge race. Glen Eagles in front. Territories trying to reel him in. Glen Eagles though, and Ryan Moore have won.
Golden Horn and Jack Hobbs, the 8th intense moment in the derby, and Golden Horn looks like putting it to bed. Jack Hobbs trying to stay in the game, tightened up, and it is Golden Horn driven out, remains unbeaten. Golden Horn won the derby. Frankie Dettori punches the air.
And here now comes Muhara, but it is Tropics who got first run, and Tropics still has the lead over Muhara racing in second. Tropics trying to hold the 3-year-old, racing up towards the line, very tight. Tropics far side, Muhara on the near side. There could be a flared nostril in it.
Arabian Queen on the far side is a real doer fighter. Golden Horn on the near side is going to have to dig deep to maintain the unbeaten record. Arabian Queen is wearing him down. It's going to be tight. Arabian Queen has won the John Mott. What a surprise, what a shock. Glen Eagles over on the far side, Cody Bear, Integral running a mighty race. Solo has got to the lead past El Park. Glen Eagles with work to do and time running out, and it's Solo the Grey in front. Bernardo coming late on the scene, but Solo continues this perfect season and wins the Queen Elizabeth II.
The final fence, Vaucour led by another length. Q-Card is putting up a mighty fight, but it is Vaucour and Ruby Walsh out in front. Q-Card is coming, he's coming hard. Here comes the line. 2 points to call.
Well, it was indeed close. I think Q-Card just got up in the dying strides there in the King George, something we will reflect on later. And those highlights there told you that we've got a packed show, lots and lots to look back on later on. Technology willing, I'll be joined by Frankie Dettori, Sarah Bradstock and Paul Mulrennan. But I've got a couple of familiar faces to introduce now. Will be with me throughout the show. First of all, let's say hello to Mark Howard. How are you doing, Mark?
Hi Angus, nice to hear from you. Yeah, I'm okay. We're obviously could do with some live sport, but I've never watched so many repeats of Poirot. He had some record.
Yeah, he had a tremendous strike rate, didn't he?
He did, a bit like Franco. I think he was unbeaten, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was, yeah. You okay then? You're faring well, cabin fever not setting in too badly?
No, it's going to be a long haul, isn't it? But I mean, a lot more important things are happening outside, so it's going to take a while, but it's got to take as long as it does, really.
Yeah, have you been busy with your head on the flat?
Yeah, that's all ready to go, funnily enough. But I mean, there's not much point publishing it until we have some racing, so it is ready to go. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the for when everything gets started again.
Looking at some of the footage that we showed at the top of the show, there was some tremendous action in 2015. What are your memories of the year?
I think Golden Horn, Frankie Dettori, he had a fantastic year, didn't he, Frankie? I think he had 8 Group 1 winners. Golden Horn, he was the star of the flat, 6 wins. To start in mid-April at the Craven meeting and then to end up running in the Breeders' Cup, only 2 defeats. He was just a fantastic horse. To do all that as a 3-year-old. And from a jumps point of view, we're going to talk about the Cheltenham Festival, but Willie Mullins, he very much ruled the roost, not for the first time. Yeah, indeed. Just going back to Golden Horn, he sort of broke the mould a little bit, didn't he, in terms of what he achieved, because horses like him who could win a Guineas are often looked after and specifically pointed at races, but John Gosden didn't shy away from any challenge, really. Not at all. He was aggressively campaigned. I think he had 8 races. He won 6. As I mentioned, he started mid-April. He won an Arc, he won an Eclipse, he won a Derby. Ironically, Frankie didn't ride him, did he, in the Dante? No. William Butte took the ride, but from then onwards, he just never looked back. He was a top-class horse, had to be supplemented for the Derby. Equally good, 1.25 miles, mile and a half, a fantastic horse. Yeah, so we'll have lots of memories of him, and hopefully we'll talk to Frankie very shortly. Let's say hello to Stuart Machin, who's going to join us as well. I think we can hear Stuart rather than see him. How are you doing, Stuart?
Hello, Angus. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Probably hearing me and not seeing me is the ideal result for anyone, if they have to hear me at all, that is.
We have a very young picture of you on the screen, Stuart.
Yes, the years have not been kind, Angus, I'm afraid.
I wouldn't say that. Congratulations on your call in the vintage Grand National, the virtual Grand National, I should say. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was something different. Look, it was a pleasure to be involved. It was great to do some work. But what an extraordinary reaction from the public. Me and indeed the rest of the entire team, Lucky, the production team, have been completely staggered by the response that it got. To get 4.8 million people watching, to raise over £2.5 million for the NHS charities, courtesy of the bookmakers donating their profits, was just absolutely extraordinary. And it just goes to show, really, what a force for good racing can be in these difficult times.
Yes, indeed. And well done to you for selling your call sheets with all the colours on. I think you raised a fair bit of money for the NHS with that.
Well, thanks to Conservative MP Philip Davis, who got the final bid in £2,000.
Wow.
Extraordinary. For a bit of colouring in. I only wish I could colour in more neatly now.
I was going to say you should do more drawings, really, Stuart.
Yeah, I need more practice, yeah. And thanks to Nick as well for organising that. Look, I sort of floated the idea past Nick with a certain amount of scepticism, thinking, well, nobody's going to be interested in this. But he took it on board and he put the reserve in. So a lot of hard work on his part got that done. And, yeah, just extraordinary.
2015, Stuart, is what we're concentrating on in the show. Today, what are your memories of that year?
Well, I'm glad I've had a couple of days to look back on 2015 and remind myself what happened. Because generally speaking, I can't remember what won the last race, let alone what happened 5 years ago.
That's because you were rushing to the car park, Stuart, no?
Exactly, yes. You know me too well. Look, Angus, we're in the fortunate position at Racing TV, aren't we, or Racing UK as it was then, that we get to go to all the big gigs in racing. Just about every major festival in 2015 was shown as then on Racing UK in this country. So I had the pleasure of going to Cheltenham and to Aintree and to York and Epsom and Ascot and so on, and getting to see all these fantastic horses and jockeys in action. And I mean, just some of the highlights. Trip to Paris's win, for example, in the Gold Cup at Ascot that year. Glen Eagles bursting on the scene in his classic season. And also a first look at Binding. That's when she appeared as a juvenile in 2015. And on the jumping front, well, Mark's mentioned the Cheltenham Festival and Willie Mullins, and then you've got Many Clouds and Q Card, and so the list goes on. And the more you think about it and the more you look back, the more highlights you find.
Yeah, I think it was a stellar year, really. Stuart, Mark, we've got some questions for you as we work our way through the show. Our first one is coming up, guys. In 2015, Frankie tasted Cheltenham's success as a breeder with Dodging Bullets, as you'll know. But which other former champion jockey bred the Irish Derby winner?
Oh, now
Either
you're
of
asking,
you. Any ideas?
I'd have to bow to Mark's superior knowledge on that one.
Oh, no, I'm struggling as well.
Really? Oh dear, it's not a great start, is it?
Oh, we've come down at the first.
You've come down to the first. They do get a little bit easier as we work our way through the show. You'll be very pleased to know. Willie Carson. You could have almost hazarded a guess at that.
Oh.
Bred lots of good horses, hasn't he, in his time?
Yeah.
And he bred the Irish Derby winner. We have mentioned Frankie Dettori already on the show, and he joins me on the line. Hello, Frankie. How are you faring in these troubled times?
Hi, guys. Well, going through the routine, but what can we do? You know, people are dying out there, and
yeah,
you got to, have sympathy to those guys who are dying and the families, and the NHS were doing a fantastic time. Fantastic job they're doing. So we all have to be positive and try to put through this crisis.
Yes, we have to do the best we can. We'll talk about your role with Equestrian Relief a little bit later on, Frankie, because it's a very important role. But 2015, first of all, the year we concentrate on, it was a very big year for you, courtesy of Golden Horn, wasn't it?
Yes, obviously my link back with John Gosden was huge. I started working for him in March, and the first horse he put me on was Golden Horn, and the rest is history, really. You've got to watch all the races on your video, I guess. Yeah,
well, I'll just take you through his performances that year. You started off winning at Newmarket in April, Frank. You beat Peacock there by a length and a half, and I seem to remember you talking to us after that, and you were suitably impressed with him that day.
Yes, I was. The fielding is a great race, a mile and one, so it gives you an idea if it's going to be a Guineas horse or a Derby horse. It was doing his best work at the end, so John trained me for the Derby. And fun enough, at that stage, I was probably preferring Jack Hobbs in front of Golden Horn. And I rode Jack Hobbs in the Dante, and when William passed me like I was standing still, I realised I want to ride that one in the Derby.
Yeah, we're just having a look at the Dante now, Frankie. Why did you choose Jack Hobbs in this race?
Jack Hobbs from day one was always a brilliant worker, and Golden Horn he worked decent, but he never gave you a Jack Hobbs wow factor, and horses are different, and classic example is Enable. She's the same, but I was only going on what I felt and on the homeworks. I couldn't separate them. And there was quite the case when they both ran the Derby, finished first and second. So, but that's what trials are there for. You're going to go with the instinct. And like I said, it was very obvious, not just to me, to the world, that Golden Horn had a different gear,
Yeah, it's difficult that time of year. We're talking about May, aren't you? And at that time of year, 3-year-olds, they're changing and improving rapidly. And if you've got a choice between two good ones, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, and also when you have two good horses like that, you're never going to work them together.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're going to break the heart of one or the other. So you go on what you see or what you feel with John and the people who are associated with the horses, and I'm glad I got it right on the big day. Yeah, no, you certainly did, because you turned the form around when it came to the Derby. As you went into the Derby, how confident were you? Well, I think he put on the best trial. Obviously, I think Aidan threw about 6 or 8 in at the canyon, remember? Yeah. And I was actually worried about Jacobs, and I managed to use him as a reference point. And when we passed the 2, when he got just a couple of lengths of me, William, I thought, I've got a mountain to climb. And then, once he found top gear, then within half a furlong was all over. And and I repeated it many times. My 33 years of riding is the most emotional feeling that I ever had for a particular race. To a point that I felt my body going like jelly, and like somebody zapped all the energy out of me. It was really, really special, for many reasons. Obviously, for being in the, 2 or 3 years I was in the limelight, and obviously being older, my kids being involved a bit more, and it meant a lot,
And did it mean a lot to you because of your renewed association with John Gosden?
The whole thing, be back with John. It was like a fairy tale story. And like I said, my kids were old enough, because when I won it with authorized, my kids were really babies. They don't really. But the second time round, they were the big banner outside the house, go on, Daddy, and it meant a lot, And 2 years prior to that, I never thought I would have another chance to ride such a great horse, and so it was very emotional.
Yeah, it was a huge sporting comeback from yourself, Frankie, and thereafter you never looked back. Really, you continued to ride with tons of confidence. And when it came to the eclipse at Sandown, of course he's dropping back in trip for this. He's coming back to 1.25 miles. Was that ever a bit of a worry to you? You see him beating the Great Gatsby here.
I probably thought there was probably more the man of quarter horse than 1.5 miles, and because he was blessed with a lot of speed, and it wasn't slow.
Right.
In the clips, we were drawn on the inside. There was a small field. The Great Gatsby was also comes from behind, so I had to make my own run. It wasn't ideal, but I knew that he had plenty of gears to try that. And me and John and Mr. Oppenheimer, we talked at length, and we thought that was the best way to approach it. And at that time of the year, the three-year-olds get so much weight. And I thought, well, if I can get him my own way in front, I'd be a very hard horse to pass.
Yeah, you mentioned Mr. Oppenheimer there. He's a great owner-breeder of our time, Frankie. He doesn't often keep his colts, does he? He likes to keep his fillies because he's a breeder, and he sells his colts. But he kept this one, and he's a very shrewd judge, isn't he?
Yes, I mean, look, I worked for Godolphin for 18 years, so I didn't have much contact with the Oppenheimers, but it's amazing this last 4 years. Golden Dawn, Cracksman, Starcatcher. I mean, the success that we had, and all homebreds are pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's old school.
He's got a very selective program, and he gets the results, and may long continue.
Well, absolutely, yeah, as long as you can stay on board, Frankie. So after the eclipse, off to York for the international.
Off to York to the international.
Yeah, things didn't go right here, though, did it?
Yeah, it didn't go right. It was a big key, and I was trying to get covered, and I lost my pacemaker, so then I tried to get cover behind Sylvester, and he just stole the match from me in the straight, and I got to take my hat off to Sylvester. He kind of nicked it from me, but if hindsight be great, I'll probably ride him a bit more forward. And I was a bit scared of him running too free, and I was trying to restrain him, but it was the wrong thing to do. But I was still learning about the horse, and that was it. I tell you, he wasn't happy there. Let me tell you.
No. I mean, do you really blame yourself for that, or was the horse a bit flat?
Of course, he could beat on the neck. He hit the flat spot. So many things you can say, but it was like a stop and start, and I think I could have done better, but it's one of those things. Yeah.
But you moved on, and you did do better when it came to Leopardstown after that, Frankie, and you won despite that noticeable jink in the closing stages.
Yeah, I mean, I still believe that he shied away from the big screen.
Right.
I mean, he had the race won. It was all done and dusted, and it really swerved rightly, like he saw something. But luckily, I had such a big cushion, and he still won.
Yeah, he beat some good horses there, because Found, who went on to beat you in the Breeders' Cup, was in second place, and Free Eagle third. It's always a very good race, the Irish champion.
But it's probably the best Derby trial, that race, and so we went into the Derby, and obviously it was all about Trev, wasn't it? And
well, yeah.
And inside me, I was kind of laughing, because here I am, is the horse Cricket jogged me off, and now I'm the main opposition.
It must have given you a great deal of satisfaction to win the Arc de Triomphe, particularly, Frankie, because you overcame stall 14. Now, if you think you gave Golden Horn a bad ride in the International, this was a brilliant ride, if you don't mind me saying so, from the draw. Just explain your thinking and how it went for you.
Well, I was drawn 14. I thought, well, obviously I don't want to sit last. And if I jump with the others, he's a horse that he got very animated when he got near the group. He wanted to pass them all. He was one of those kind of horses. He was a leader, you know. So I thought, well, if you can keep a leader name on the outside for 3 furlongs to the top of the hill, then I can slot him so he won't be over racing with me, you know. Like he could do, like he did in the Derby. The first pair, he was taking me on. And, you know, me and John talked about it. We walked the track, and he either looked great or very silly. So we rolled the dice, and I came out smelling the roses. And it's probably, in a big race, the best ride I ever given a horse, because under the circumstances and under the pressure, the biggest race in Europe, and but you know what? You know, it's okay me guiding Golden Horn, but if he didn't have the legs to win it, all the statue would have been good for no one. So it was a great horse. It was a great horse.
He was a great horse. The tactics to stay out wide and then gradually edge over and slot in, was that your idea or John's, or was it a collective thought from the two of you?
Well, I put it up to John, and he thought about it. That, you know, we had that was a plan, but then it could have gone terribly wrong, or could have been a completely different race. But as it happened, the pacemaker of Trev went relatively slow. I was very surprised, and I was able to use him without going too wide. And I thought, well, I can't believe it how well it's worked out. You know, but it could have been a completely different race if they went very fast.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's, you know, I've got a tremendous feeling when I ride for John, because we do go through it, we talk about it. But pretty much give me free rein, because every race is run a different dynamic. So if you run that arc in 10 different ways, you get, you know, maybe different results. But in that occasion, I did what I thought best, and it worked out.
Yeah, when I watched it, I was watching Trev and seeing how she was getting on, because she could be quite keen in her races and she wanted a little bit of cover. And as you slotted across and got in behind, I think it was Shahar who was the pacemaker. I thought, well, Shahar's just making the pace for Frankie now on Golden Horn. It was perfect.
Yeah, and I said to John, look, that was my plan. I said, John, when we turned from home, I said, you know, because Longchamp is very slick. I said they're going to come like Harrow, so I'm gonna put the indicator, and I'm going to go first. And as it happens, you know, he showed that tremendous turn of foot, and they were all coming at the end, but I was too late. He got to lie first. He was
a tremendous horse. It was a shame that he tasted defeat in the Breeders' Cup, where Found beat him, but he went down fighting, Frankie.
Yeah, he was. He reigned for 3 weeks in Keeneland, and surprising for me, they never saved any ground, so it was like a plough field, basically. Right. He handled a bit of cut in the ground, but that was really labouring. His legs were spinning, and it Found that with all the free-roll allowances as a filly, probably handled the ground better than us. Yeah. But lost nothing in defeat. No. And you know, I have to put him up there with one of the great horses that I've ever ridden.
Yeah, he was incredibly durable, wasn't he? I said to Mark Howard at the top of the show that he was able to dance every dance, really. A lot of 3-year-olds will be more sparingly and lightly campaigned than he was, but he came up for you every time, really.
He had an amazing constitution of power. I mean, every time he used to ride and work, like I said, his work wasn't brilliant, but I was never able to stop him. You know, I was one of those horses who gallop right till the end of the gallop. He was never tired. He was one of those. He had so much energy. It was amazing. It was amazing to be around, and so strong and so determined. I mean, he would definitely run through a brick wall. You know, he would just really hard and strong.
Yeah, it'd be fair to say that he's the horse that sort of relaunched your career. Would that be fair enough?
Oh, without a doubt, yes. Yeah. You know, I didn't think. I didn't think at that stage of my career I would get a great horse like that, you know.
Yeah.
And he, like I said, he gave me so much satisfaction. And I wish I had him for one more year as a four-year-old, but I think he's already achieved a lot more than most that I thought about have done. So amazing to be part of that story.
Yeah, horse of a lifetime, Frankie. And as ever, you've gone from strength to strength. Since I'd like to touch on the trying times that we are enduring right now, Frankie, and you're very much involved with equestrian relief. Just tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's the NHS they're doing such a sterling job day in and day out. Myself, AP, Zara Phillips, another in brackets, Aussie people. Try to raise 100,000 for the NHS, so we can give them a little bit of support, just to say thank on our behalf to what a great job they are doing. Being in Italian, I've seen on TV day in and day out the devastation this horrible the virus is doing to my country, and I know, you know, I've got family at home, and there's scary moments for myself and my family. Then I just prayed every day that they're okay. So it's only a little bit of fun that we're doing, and we just hope that people contribute a little bit just to help the people in the front line, what are the NHS.
Yeah, try and raise £100,000 as quick as we possibly can. Around about the 13th of April would be the target date. I know AP's heavily involved. I've seen a fair few people on social media getting involved, trying to persuade others to give generously, and I certainly hope they do. I will be contributing, Frankie, and I'm sure lots of other people within the equestrian world will be as well. I'd like to thank you for joining us, and I wish you and your family all the very best, Frankie. I hope they stay safe, fit and healthy, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on a racecourse. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Well, Angus, thanks very much, all the viewers. Well, let's get through this, and once we're all safe, we're going to carry on what we love to do best, is racehorses and have fun.
We will get there, Frankie. Thank you very much.
Bye, thanks.
Frankie Dettori reflecting on a fantastic season, riding specifically Golden Horn, relaunched his career. All the confidence came surging back, and he has not looked back since. Mark Howard and Stuart Machin are my pundits here today, and I'm sure they want to reflect on Golden Horn. Stuart, if I could come to you first of all. He was a high-class racehorse who also had that toughness, that willingness and toughness. They don't always have both, do they? The class, the speed, and that durability.
No, and the will to win is the important factor, isn't it? The will to really knuckle down and fight when it came down to it. And we saw that on so many occasions. Look, for me, there was one standout performance. It was the Arc. You touched on it with Frankie. I think if ever you wanted a lesson in race riding, how to overcome a difficult situation. Stall 14, as we all know, in the Arc is extremely difficult. And also having a horse who was prepared to knuckle down at the end of an already very long season. I think the Arc was the perfect example in 2015.
Yeah, Mark, it was interesting that Frankie described it as being just about his best ride in a big Group 1 race ever. I'm sure you just about concur with that.
I think that just speaks volumes about a Golden Horn. You know, Frankie's ridden so many brilliant horses throughout his career, and the fact he sort of picked that one race out. But to win from stall 14 to beat the likes of Trev was an incredible performance, and on the back of a long season as well. You know, he'd run in an Eclipse, a Derby, etc. And to be producing a performance at the back end of that season was a fantastic achievement. Ironical, his 2 defeats were both at the hands of fillies, but go some horse.
Yeah, he was. From a human perspective, Stuart, this is a really important horse for Frankie, wasn't it? It signalled his return to the big time. It really cemented this brand new assault, this renewed association with John Gosden as well. It was a seminal moment for him.
It was, because let's not forget, Frankie had his own personal difficulties, and he'd made the headlines a couple of times for the wrong reasons in the preceding years. But whenever Frankie has a good day, or in this case has a good year, then racing has one as well, because Frankie, more than anybody in the sport, has the ability to take racing away from the back pages and put it on the front pages and make it mainstream for the right reasons. And that's exactly what happened in 2015.
Yeah, Mark, it would be fair to say that it would have been terrible for racing if we'd lost him around about the 2013-2014 time. But for him to come back was just for the good of the sport as well as for his own good as well.
Absolutely, Angus. You've got to echo everything Stuart's just said. He's the one person in horse racing that puts the sport on the front covers. And what a resurgence it's been in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. He's been back with John Gosden, riding so many good horses. And remember, Golden Horn came along the year after Kingman had been retired as well. So it's just been a fantastic partnership, Gosden and Dettori.
Yeah, they've just gone from strength to strength since then. Let's remind you who are the best horses in the world in 2015 on the flat. And it was American Pharaoh at the rating of 134. Now, he won the Triple Crown, of course, hadn't been done for 40-odd years, and he won it. And he won the Breeders' Cup Classic, and on the back of that, he was rated the best horse in the world, ahead of Golden Horn. The Santa Anita Handicap winner, Shared Belief, was next. Trev, who won the Vermeil in 2015. Able Friend, Solo, who was a brilliant horse for Freddie Head. He won 11 races in a row. And Order of St Georgia, superb stayer, of course, for the Aidan O'Brien team. We should reflect on Solo, I think. Chap, Stuart, first of all, Freddie Head always said this is one of the better horses he's trained, and he's had plenty of good horses through his yard, the likes of Miesk, but he really rated Solo, and he came over here and took the Sussex Stakes and the QE2, and really cemented that he wasn't just a horse who could do it in France, but he could travel and do it. He could do it in the UK, and he could do it in Dubai as well.
And he did not do some travelling as well.
He did,
didn't he, that year? It was an extraordinary year for him, wasn't it? Remember, at the age of 5, late maturing type, he only ran twice towards the back end as a 2-year-old, but in 2015 he started this season, Angus, in early March in the Prix Mangeux on an artificial surface, won that, then went to Dubai, went back home, won the Dispahan in late May, and then we have that hat-trick of successes over here, the Queen Anne, the Sussex Stakes, and the QE2. It was just an annus mirabilis for him.
Yeah, it really was. What are your memories of Solo, Mark?
Just a remarkable horse. I mean, I think if you consider, he didn't win a group race till August of his 4-year-old career, and then, as Stuart's just said, he was unbeaten in 2015, started out in Meydan, and then he just cleaned up, didn't he? Dispahan, Queen Anne, just a very tough horse. He got on well with Olivier Pellier, but he formed a fantastic partnership with Maxime Guillon. I think he was 7 from 7 on him, so he obviously was a late maturing horse. He got better with his racing.
He did, handled by an absolutely brilliant trainer in Freddie Head, who always rated him very highly indeed. He was a strong traveller, really genuine type as well. So that's Solo, who won the Sussex Stakes and the QE2 that we just had a look at. As far as sprinting was concerned, Stuart, it was Muhara who was the leading act on the scene here in the UK, winning the July Cup.
Yeah, and what a sprinter he was as well, wasn't it? A tremendous burst of speed. He had a high cruising speed, and then the ability to just take the race away from his rivals in the matter of strides. It was extraordinary.
Yeah, this is him running on to catch Tropics, Mark, in the closing stages. Tropics would have been a huge shock in the race, but Muhara stayed on strongly. He did stay a little bit further, Mark, didn't he? And his progeny, in fact, if you look at them, they want further than 6 furlongs by and large. There's Paul Hannigan coming back in on him. He was a really good sprinter for Charlie Hills, who's got a short touch with this type of horse.
He has, yeah. He's had so many good sprinters in the last few years. But you mentioned about running over 7 furlongs. Frankie actually rode him when he won the Greenham at the start of the year. Tried to make him a Guineas horse. Didn't stay in the French Guineas. But then when he went sprinting, I think he produced some exceptional performances for me. I think the Commonwealth Cup, the day he just slaughtered Limato. We know how good Limato is. He made him look ordinary on that occasion. But yeah, he was a top class horse. Great horse for Paul Hannigan as well. Paul had a really good relationship with him.
Yeah, no, it was a nice success for Paul. One of the better horses that he rode when he was associated with Hamdan Al Maktoum, Stuart.
Yeah, and he had a difficult time at time, I think, in the spotlight. He came in for a little bit of stick occasionally, unwarranted, I think, a lot of the time. But he got on particularly well, as Mark has said, with Muhara. And look, there's no doubting that Paul Hannigan is a top-class jockey and well up there with the best of them. And that, I think, was never better typified than when he was on Muhara.
Yeah, this is him in the British Champion Sprint, where he beat Twilight Sun, Danzino, the Tin Man, who's a bit of a specialist at Ascot, and he fairly surged away from Twilight Sun in the closing stages. He won by a couple of lengths under Paul Hannigan, a really big speed figure, a time form speed figure of 129. He was a tremendously fast and good sprinter, and it's good to look back on his successes. We're going to leave the flat season soon, guys, but Stuart, any other memories you'd like to bring to us from 2015 from the flat?
Well, there was Silvestre de Souza's championship. It wasn't the first of 3 for de Souza in what I felt like a long season, didn't it? He was on the go from the outset and the peak of the season, riding at two meetings, so thoroughly deserved for him. I mentioned way back at the start of the programme as well the performance of trip to Paris to win the Gold Cup. And Graham Lee, 2004 Grand National winner aboard Amberley House, and then 11 years later in his reincarnation as a flat jockey, he wins one of Flat's big staying prizes at the Royal Meeting.
Yeah, no, that's a good one, Graham Lee. Such a versatile jockey through the years. Mark, what thoughts have you got about the rest of the flat season in 2015? One point I could bring to your attention was Tom Marquand, who won the Apprentice Championship, and he'll be up there, one would imagine, fighting for the fully fledged championship this year with Oisin Murphy.
Yeah, Tom had a great year. I think it was only his second season riding as well when he won the Champion Apprentice. To do that, I think he had 54 winners in the official season. So to do that on the back of your second season is a fantastic achievement. I mean, and we've seen in time, it's not been a fluke, has it? You've seen how well he's done. He's been cleaning up in Australia in the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks. So yeah, he's a top class rider. He's getting support from people like William Haggis now. William doesn't usually get it wrong.
No, he certainly doesn't. No, I've been very impressed with Tom. I know the Australians were particularly impressed with him with his 2 successes recently down there on the William Haggis horses, Dabe and Young Rascal, both winning on the same day, and he was equally impressive on both of them. Many thanks to Mark and Stuart for now. We will hear from them very shortly indeed. We take a break in a moment, but we're going to the break with another question for you. Before Kody Green, he was the most recent novice chaser to win a Cheltenham Gold Cup. Who was it then? Before Kody Green, novice to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup. You'll find out in a moment.
At Racing TV, 100% of our profits go back into racing. Thank you for supporting the sport that we all know and love.
Dubai, on my way from home. Cheltenham, bit chilly for me. Not that this guy's noticed. Royal Ascot. This is more like it. France. Voila. Perfection. Head to racingbreak.com to find out more.
Racing TV Travel Club offer time in partnership with Racing Brakes, and it's for the Randox South Grand National Festival of 2021. And that's to book an overnight package for the Grand National 2021 with a £25 refundable deposit and get £25 off with code RTV25. And to find out more, visit racingtv.com/travel club.
We went to that break with a question for you. It was about the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Who was the novice before Kody Green to win it? Stuart, Mark, any ideas?
I think I know the answer to this, but if Mark thinks he knows, he can have first crack.
No, you go first, Stuart. I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember.
Well, we've all become very polite all of a sudden, haven't we? Was it Captain Christie?
Well done, Stuart. Good man. Well done. It was magnanimous of you, Mark, to let Stuart get that.
Yeah, well done, Stuart. I've got an excuse. I don't think I was around when he won it.
Sadly, I was.
Yeah. Me too, as well. But after Captain Christie, it was Kody Green who took the Cheltenham Gold Cup as a novice, trained by Sarah Bradstock, is on the phone to speak to me now about that great chase. So, hello, Sarah. How are you bearing up these days?
Oh, well, we're struggling on. It's all a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? But we've got to keep going.
Yeah, that's all we can do, isn't it? Are you managing to just keep the horses ticking over?
Yeah, we've given, the jumping isn't starting till July, is it? So we're sort of giving them a couple of weeks and then going to get the good ground ones ticking over. Because, of course, they haven't been able to run all year, the good ground ones, because we've had such bottomless ground.
Yeah, they must be fresh as paint.
They were absolutely spot on to run. The week it stopped was when the good ground was coming.
Deary me. Just your luck. But you had plenty of luck in 2015 with Kody Green come into that year on the back of a couple of wins, one at Newbury and then at Kempton, of course. And he started off at Newbury in early February under Richard Johnson. We're having a look at it now. Happy memories for you.
It was a fantastic year, wasn't it? The horse is completely unique, and the story is a fairy tale. We bought the mother for absolutely no money to breed something for my dad to sort of enjoy winning bad novice hurdles.
Just tell us about this win in the Betfair Denman Chase, where you beat Houblon des Abots pretty comfortably. He won by 7 lengths in the end. He really sort of announced himself on the scene and signalled that he might be either an RSA or a Gold Cup horse.
Well, we ran him in that race because there was the RSA or the Gold Cup. The Gold Cup wasn't looking like it was the best one ever, with Silvinaco Conti being favourite, who'd been beaten twice. So we ran him at Newbury really to see if he just got, if he was up to the grown-up boys. And one of the great deciders in the decision in the end was Aidan Coleman's reaction when he went away from Houblon des Abots, bless his cotton socks, just as if he was standing still.
Yeah. Did you have a chat with Aidan then? And he said...
Aidan said, you'll win the Gold Cup.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did he? So that made your mind up to go, basically.
Well, no, everybody made a terrible scene about it, and you can imagine we got endless emails about what terrible people we were and terrible things we were doing. But to me, it was a sort of no-brainer, because if we ran in the RSA, we either won it very easily and we thought, why didn't we run in the Gold Cup? And we got beat. Yeah. So you felt like you've got to remember, he'd already demonstrated his fragility. He'd had stress fractures from a 5-year-old in his very long back legs. So you felt like here he is. He's in wonderful form. One of the things that is incredible about him is his focus. So I pretty well knew that he wouldn't be fazed by the whole thing about Cheltenham. So I was completely confident that it was the right decision, I must say, going into it.
Yeah, a top-class jockey's told you that he thinks he'll win it, and you had your ground to a degree because he wanted a little bit of cut, didn't he? And if he's at the top of his game and he's a bit fragile, then you've got to have a go, really.
Haven't you?
Yeah.
That's the point. He he is what he is, and he's brilliant, but he is fragile. So you had to give it a go.
Yeah, take us through that afternoon, that Gold Cup afternoon.
Well, the very sad thing is that I don't really. I've watched it obviously a million times.
Yes.
I really don't remember the race. I think I was so stressed.
Do you remember where you watched it?
Going up the run-in, and although afterwards you can see that the others were coming back at him, I didn't think he was getting beat because I knew what an incredible day it was.
Yeah.
And so I sprinted, which is pretty extraordinary because I can't breathe very well, but I managed to go pretty fast up the run-in to greet him. And it was just amazing.
Yeah, amazing for a novice to do it. We highlighted when we came to you with that question that it was a long time since a novice had been able to do what he managed to do. I know he was quite fragile, but he must have been pretty tough. He must have had quite a good constitution, really, a good mind as well.
He had. I said to someone once, I think his mind, he was the equine equivalent of A.P. McCoy, because he had total determination, total focus. He just was a really, really efficient racehorse. We'd spent a long time teaching him to jump properly because of his great big long back legs. And he'd got so good at it, you could gallop him at the big fence in the school, he'd never touch it. And I knew that once he gets on the race course, that's all he wants to do. He wants to gallop and jump, and if you watch the Gold Cup, he just does gallop more effortlessly and jump much more efficiently than anything else.
Yeah.
And it's the sort of not getting anything wrong that's so incredible about him.
Yeah, I always thought when I was watching him that I knew when he was right and when things were going to go well for him, because he had such enthusiasm. When he raced with that enthusiasm, you kind of knew that nothing was hurting and he was in good nick.
Exactly. And but his enthusiasm was extraordinary because I think by the end, when he still so wanted to do it, that we wanted to let him, and he had that wonderful run at Punchestown,
yes,
when he would have won if he hadn't met a fence wrong for the first time in his life. And even the second last race he had at Kempton, he had all that enthusiasm, but I think when push came to shove, his hocks didn't have the same elasticity. So what he couldn't do was be quite as efficient to jump.
So his essential problems that you managed so expertly through his career were with his hind legs, were they?
Yes. If you watch him, he had the most extraordinary action, and his back legs are very long, and they came, when he was really powering, his hocks would come past his knees.
Yeah.
And therefore they were what had pins in, and then got little bits of arthritis, and a ligament called a peroneus tertius, which has always got a funny name.
I'll look it up later.
Yeah, that ended up being near a bit of arthritis, which is what made us say now. Well, at Ascot he'd said he didn't want to do it, so that was that. Yeah, no, indeed. But as far as 2015 was concerned, was it? I know what did he have? Just 3 runs in 2015. Was it a relatively? Did you have a clean run with him injury-wise? He did niggle his hock. We were going to run him in the Cotswold Chase to give him a practice round Cheltenham instead of Newbury. And he just niggled his hock in his last piece of work before that, but it was only a niggle. That was the only little blip we had.
Yeah.
Of course, we had the blip at the beginning of that season when there was a complete farce at Plumpton.
Well, indeed. Yeah. Yes.
But that sent us all in the right place, so we'll forgive them now.
Well, we will. We will at this stage, with other things to think about. I just want to talk about Nikko Doughboy. To a degree, Kody Green launched his career, and they had a chemistry. I thought they got on really well.
They got on very well because Nikko has a past before going into racing of riding other horses, and I think that Kody Green very much liked the fact that he kept him in a very nice balance, and he's enabled him to do what he did so well, which was, as I say, to gallop and jump so effortlessly. But the other point about Nikko is that because we're small trainers, it's harder to get jockeys to really listen to every word you say, and the point about this horse is he never had gears. I mean, like if you watched him work at home, he was probably one of the slowest horses we had. because he just had this relentless gallop. And Nikko came out into the paddock saying, oh, all the jockeys are saying don't go too fast. I said, ignore them, Nikko. You've got to go as fast as you can go, because otherwise you won't win it.
Simply
the
because
only way that what was his point was he could go faster than the others for longer.
Yeah. So
and I think it would be much harder for a seasoned jockey to realise that actually you were never looking to hold on to a bit to get up the hill, because if you did that, they'd have sprinted by him.
Yeah. You had to almost drag the petrol out of them as much as you could, and you knew that he would keep on going.
And the other thing is that made the most of his incredible jumping, because he, whether close or long, takes nothing out of himself. And if you're taking all of the others at a pace that is out of their comfort zone, it just pays on their jumping a little bit.
Yeah. It's a shame he had trouble with his hocks, really, because...
I truly believe he could have been a horse who won 2 or 3.
I was going to say, he could have won it again, couldn't he? He really could.
Yes, he really could.
Yeah.
And he came out the next year at Sandown.
Yes.
And literally cantered round to finish a distance in front of everybody to show quite how good he was. Because people, like Paul Nicholls was touting Southfield Theatre to beat him that day.
Yeah.
At the Sandown, and he just annihilated them, and it was after that race that his problems sort of happened, really.
44 lengths you beat Southfield Theatre by.
Yes, and he's a good old horse who we have now, which is lovely.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I bet Paul Nicholls couldn't believe that he was beaten so far.
No, that's what I mean. I mean, Paul doesn't get things wrong very often, and he was... My son was friends with someone to do with his owners, and they were saying, "Oh, we're going to beat you." Really?
Yeah. Well, you absolutely thrashed him. After that, I know things didn't go that well. But was it very much stop and start with him thereafter?
Yes. From that moment on, we were forever. I mean, obviously, he was everything, and we were never going to take a risk with him. So he'd be quite radioactive. He had quite a lot of bone scans to make sure that we didn't ever take any risks with him. And he has had fractures he has one leg. His right front leg has had no fractures, thank God, touch wood. But the others have all had fractures and he didn't ever have any soft tissue problems. I think probably his muscles were as extraordinary as him, his muscles and tendons. But his bones, sadly, didn't quite live up to them.
He's a great credit to your training skills. Every time he raced, you must have, with fear and trepidation, gone to his box in the morning to see how he was.
Oh yes, well the fear, not just every time he raced, every time I went into his box.
Really, yeah.
But he's my friend.
Yeah.
He's still out there and taking up showing in his old age, because he quite likes people looking at him.
Yeah, I was going to ask how he's doing. He's fitting well.
He's fitting very, very well. He's extremely fresh at the moment.
Great. Have you got another Kody Green lurking somewhere?
Oh, I wish I did. I think he's a once in a lifetime. We have his sister, who was called Maid of Oaksey, who didn't run very much because obviously she was too valuable as a broodmare. One of them is going to be okay, but he's tiny as the first foal, and the next one is a big white hope by Cave Tara, who is backward at the moment. We haven't run him this year. We might have done if we weren't in this stop, but he has some of Max's attributes. I don't think for a moment he can be that good, but we'll keep trying, as you know.
Keep trying, yeah.
I think everyone know we've proved that if we get one good enough, we can win whatever with it.
No, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. I hope we've brought some happy memories flooding back in these troubled times.
We need some of them at the moment, don't we?
We certainly do. Sarah, thanks very much for joining us. I wish you well. Stay fit and healthy, and we'll see you on a racecourse soon, hopefully.
Thanks you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Kody Green, the winner of the Cheltenham Gold Cup in 2015. Let's have a quick reflection on him with Mark first of all. I think this was a remarkable training performance given the problems, Mark, that Kody Green had, as detailed there by Sarah.
Yeah, I think so. And for a horse to to win a Cheltenham Gold Cup on your fourth run over fences is some achievement, isn't it? And obviously from what Sarah said there, they got a fair bit of stick for going down the Gold Cup route as opposed to the RSA, but he was a fragile horse. He struck while the iron's hot, and the decision was more than vindicated. For me, he was such a good jumper and a relentless galloper. He got horses out of the comfort zone. You remember the Corto Sty, won by 30 lengths. I don't think half the field completed that day. And that was purely because he got everything out of the comfort zone. They couldn't live with him jumping-wise. Yeah, and Stuart, that Gold Cup that he won, he beat Jackadam into second place. It was absolutely no fluke. It was a pretty strong Gold Cup.
Oh, it was a joy to watch, Angus. And as far as jump racing is concerned, historically, the greater part of jumping's appeal and the magic that it holds over people is the ability for the smaller trainer, the smaller owner, to still, on occasion, compete at the highest level. Now, we all know that's becoming increasingly more difficult as each year goes past with super owners and huge yards. I'm confident in my own mind that if Kody Green had been in training in a bigger yard, he wouldn't have run in the Gold Cup as a novice. He'd have gone down the traditional route of the RSA, and then they'd have thought about a Gold Cup in 12 months' time. But as we all know, 12 months in jump racing in injury terms is a very long time. And he may never have made a Gold Cup at all. So they made a very brave decision. They beat a high-quality field, and they became the first novice to win the Gold Cup in over 40 years. It was a remarkable performance.
It was. It proved to be an incredibly shrewd decision. Now, if he'd been in the Willie Mullins yard, he may, as you say, not have run in the Gold Cup. But Willie Mullins threw plenty of horses at the Cheltenham Festival, as he always did, and he had, as ever, Mark, a very good year. Him and Rich Ritchie teamed up with, firstly, Douvan to win the first race of the Cheltenham Festival, the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Let's have a look back at it, and I think Douvan is widely thought to be one of the best horses Willie's ever had.
Yeah, and one of the best horses Rich Ritchie's owned as well. I mean, this sort of set the trend for the meeting. I think Willie had 8 winners during the week. He won 4 races on the Tuesday. And this was his third Sky Bet Supreme win on the trot on the back of Champagne Fever and Vautour as well. But yeah, he was a hugely talented horse. He hasn't had a lot of luck in the last couple of years, but I mean, as a novice hurdler, novice chaser, he was a fantastic. Well, he still is a fantastic horse. Yeah, indeed. Ruby Walsh, of course, on board Douvan. Big year for Ruby this, and he won the Champion Hurdle on Faheen. Stuart, it was a well-judged ride. He decided to jump out and make all the running. He was on the best horse in the race, and they left him alone and let Ruby get on with it, which is as much tantamount to saying, well, you go and win the race, and Ruby did just that.
Yeah, it's deadly, isn't it, to leave any top jockey but over jumps Ruby alone in front to do his own thing around Cheltenham as well, of all places, to allow Ruby to have his own way. But you've got to have the horse underneath you, and in Faheen, he certainly had the horse underneath him then. And who'd have thought then, Angus, back in 2015, that in 5 years' time, at the age of 11, Faheen would rock up as a novice chaser at the festival?
Absolutely remarkable, isn't it? Ruby was at the top of his game, I felt, Mark, in 2015. I think he was riding at the peak of his powers.
He was, yeah. He's been brilliant throughout his career. But I mean, that was almost like a golden age, wasn't it? So many of these good horses. We're going to show Vautour in a few moments as well. But you know, to start your festival on Douvan, Faheen, and then we'll mention Annie Power as well. She didn't have a lot of luck on the day, but I mean, to be riding those quality horses, it must have been a dream come true.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touch on, as we see the Rich Ritchie colours coming back into the winners' enclosure. Faheen winning the Champion Hurdle. You touched on Vautour, who, was just hugely impressive. Mark, I'd like to come to you because I know you really like this horse. He won the JLT as he liked, really. I think the Mullins team felt that he was the good thing of the meeting and he didn't let them down.
No, I just think it's a really special performance. I mean, not many people will agree with me, but for me, I think he's been one of the best Cheltenham horses in recent times. When they had him right round Cheltenham, you know, 3 times he went to the festival, 3 wins. This was probably his best performance. He had good horses in behind him in this day. You know, Paul Carberry was travelling well on Apache Stronghold, but they just didn't know which way Vautour went. On his day, I don't think a novice would have beaten him this day. I thought it was exceptional.
Yeah, Stuart, what are your memories of that performance? You see Ruby saluting the crowd and pointing to the horse's head as he crosses the line. They obviously thought the world of this fella.
Well, you can just see, can't you, how much Ruby enjoyed that performance. He's an incredible horse, Vittor, wasn't he? And so good on that day. I mean, Mark summed it up perfectly. And remember, of course, by the time we get to the end of 2015, he serves up with Q Card just about the race of the Christmas period.
Yeah, you see him pricking his ears in the closing stages there, winning as he liked. He went on to Aintree, of course, to win after this, and he won very easily indeed. Now, it didn't all go right for Ruby Walsh, because you'll remember this was the year when Annie Power came tumbling down at the last when she was about to win the Mares' Hurdle. She was clear, she was sprinting. She quickened up off the bend and she came down and cost the bookmakers a fair few quid. That's a shot that, if you're watching, apologies, mate. What was the reported collective payout the bookies avoided on day one of Cheltenham when Annie Power came down at the last? That's the question that we pose. How much was the payout that they avoided with that fall? Annie Power, of course, some felt she jumped the shadow. There was a shadow on the takeoff side of that flight of hurdles. She took off just before the shadow and clipped the top and came down. What was the payout then, lads? What do you think? Or what would it have been?
Well, it would have been huge. I know that much. I can't remember the precise figure. Look, Mark's going to be doing a lot better than me if he can remember the precise figure. I can just remember the headline. What was it? Power failure?
Yes. Yeah. I'll put you out of your misery. 50 million, they stated. 50 million would have been the payout, but they avoided that. All the multiples came tumbling down with Annie Power in that Mares' Hurdle. Let's talk about Q Card, shall we? Because this was a big year for him, and he ended up going to the Cheltenham Cold Cup trying to win that big £1 million bonus. He unfortunately fell there, but he'd earned plenty of money prior to that. He won the Betfair Chase first up, Mark.
Yeah, he did. He was, again, he'd been a great horse over the years from his bumper days right the way through. He had a couple of wins in a Betfair Chase. This would have been the pick of his. Well, he was very good throughout his career, but this would have been his best season. He'd won the Charlie Hall. He beat Silviniano Conti this day at Haydock. Then we're about to see the King George as well. He was, and who knows what would have happened in the Gold Cup later in the season. We know he came down when he was travelling well at the third last. It's one of those, we don't know what would have happened, but I think I'd say this was his best ever season, and that's, it was some career.
Yeah, incredibly versatile horse, Stuart, from winning the champion bumper at Cheltenham to go on to win a Betfair Chase. And in a moment we'll have a look at his King George success where he beat Vittor, who we've just waxed lyrical about. He was a tremendous racehorse.
And just how well handled and how well looked after by the Tizzards to have such longevity, as you say, Angus, going back from that performance in the champion bumper right through his career. And we often, don't we, in the media, we often complain bitterly about connections wrapping jump horses up in cotton wool, and we complain that we don't see enough of them. Well, towards the end of 2015, in that 56-day period, as Mark has made reference to already, Q Card won at Charlie Hall. He beat Dinast. He won the Betfair Chase that we've seen. He thrashed Silviniano Conti by 7 lengths, with Dinast 12 lengths back in third. Then he went to the King George and had that epic tussle with Vittor. It didn't come off for him in the 2016 Cheltenham Gold Cup, but on the back of that, he went to Aintree and he won there, and then he finished his season at Punchestown. That's hardly being wrapped up in cotton wool, is it?
Oh no. He danced every dance, really. It's just such a shame he crashed out in that Gold Cup, Mark.
Yeah, as I say, he was travelling very strongly. He's still a fair way out. He's 3 out, but he probably wouldn't have swapped him. It obviously took Paddy Brennan a while to get over it. He took a lot out of him, but some horse. I mean, there's only him and Dato Star, I think, won the Cheltenham bumper as 4-year-olds. He won 9 Grade 1s during his career. As Stuart said, the Tizzards did a great job. I mean, for a horse to keep going from your 4-year-old career right through till when he retired, just speaks volumes.
I just like that. Yeah, just to pick up on that, really, I just liked his versatility as well, because he wasn't a slow horse, but he could win a Betfair chase in softish ground over a trip, but he had plenty of speed as well, Mark.
Oh, he did, yeah. 2.5, probably 3 miles was his best trip, but I mean, he won some good races over 2.5 miles, but he was just so well campaigned and aggressively campaigned. He took his races well, and he kept on going. Yeah, indeed. I just want to mention Stuart Many Clouds, if I could, winning the Grand National in 2015 and doing so for Leighton Aspel. Oliver Sherwood trained him, of course. What are your memories of that?
Well, it was a weight-carrying performance, wasn't it, first and foremost? 11 stone 9, Many Clouds carried to win the race. Now, that was the biggest weight-carrying performance, of course, since Red Rum had carried 12 stone to win back in 1974. Now, I appreciate in 1974 the Grand National was a very different race, and when Red Rum carried 12 stone, he was beating a former Gold Cup winner in the shape of Lescargo and giving him weight. So it's not in the same arena, if you like, but it is still the Grand National, and horses don't carry big weights to win a national, but Many Clouds did, and in so doing gave Leighton Aspel his second Grand National success. And here's a salutary thing as well, Angus. Now, I know for reasons that we all know about, there hasn't been a national this year, but Many Clouds in 2015 was the last English-trained winner of the race. Now, I've gone all the way back to 1900, and I can't find such a sustained period where there hasn't been a home-trained winner of the race.
That's interesting, Mark, isn't it? Irish domination.
Yeah, absolutely. Just shows how strong the Irish have been.
Yeah.
But
One
yeah,
for Arthur
he was.
As well,
it wasn't just a national win. Absolutely for Scotland. But I mean, Many Clouds. He wasn't just a national horse. He won a Hennessy, won a Cotswold Chase. 27 races he had in his career, and Leighton Aspel rode him every single time, which you don't usually get that with horses who had so many races.
No, you don't. It's a tremendous performance from him. It's really nice to have the Sherwoods here in the studio at Racing TV a few months ago, chatting about the Grand National, taking us through the race fence by fence. Thank you, chaps. More to chat about in a moment or two, but we're going to take a break and we're going to pose a question for you once again. Lewis Ferguson became a news sensation at Wincanton, but why? You've got to stay with us for this. Stay for the answer, please.
The Emerald Isle. Racing is so much more. These guys are braver than me. A mid-weekend in the Wild West. The race that stops the nation. Head to racingbreak.com to find out more.
We posed a question. Lewis Ferguson became a news sensation at Wincanton, but why? Let me remind you, he's riding Melion Square, and this is what happened to him. This is X-rated stuff, folks. Oh, dearie me. God. Tough as teak. He got up, and he was completely and utterly unscathed. And I've watched that a few times. And it just gets worse and worse. The more you watch it, Lewis Ferguson falling into Wincanton on Melion Square. Now, 2015 was a year in which a couple of very big names in our sport retired, and none bigger than A.P. McCoy. He called it a day at the final jumps meeting of the year at Sandown, famously talking to our very own Rishi Prasad. He announced his retirement, and, well, he was a legend of the sport, wasn't he? And there he is with a guard of honour, having announced his retirement in those JP colours that he rode to so many successes. And Stuart, I mean, there aren't enough superlatives, are there, to sum up his career?
Not in the English dictionary, that's for sure. No, what is it, 20 times champion jockey, We can go on. The list would go on and on and on, wouldn't it? And if you were trying to pick out what was an archetypal AP ride, you could probably come up with 6 or 7 examples, couldn't you? Though for many, I guess, the ride on Wichita Lineman at the festival is one that springs instantly to mind. For me, I thought there was one which was probably even more inspired than that, and it took place on a summer's afternoon at Worcester it was a selling or a claiming hurdle. I can't even remember the name of the horse that he was on. It was a short price favourite. I think he was riding for Jim Best, and this horse did not want to know from the outset. And AP did just about everything that was humanly possible and beyond to get this horse to win. A kidding, cajoling, persuading, sheer brute force. And he got the job done. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, I suppose, Mark, we can say lots of things about AP McCoy. Never say die is one of the things that punters would say about him, and he's probably a man who never really wanted to retire. But he had an association with so many good horses over the years. The fact that he could win a national in the end on Don't Push It, a race that was so dear to his heart and one that he always wanted to win, was one of the highlights of his career. But he rode a ton of good horses.
Oh, well, he just rode so many good ones, Angus. But I mean, that day you're talking about in the Grand National, I can never remember being on track. I can never remember a reception afterwards. You know, it just shows how popular he was with the public. But all three of us and the viewers have been lucky to be around in the era when he rode. I remember going to university, reading the Sporting Life, reading about this Tony McCoy that was riding for Toby Balding. He seemed to be riding winners left, right, and centre. He didn't know how good he was going to end up being, but it's been a fantastic career and been lucky to witness it all.
Yeah, and there he is with Ian Wright at Sandown on the day that he retired from the saddle. Her Majesty was watching, and she complied with that particular request that was made by his biggest fans at Sandown that day. Now, one of my favourite jockeys of all time is Richard Hughes. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I thought he rode racehorses the right way, quietly and patiently, and he got the most out of them without really giving everything. He was a brilliant jockey, a finesse jockey, and he retired in 2015, and he did so at Goodwood. I had, Mark, a lot of time for Richard Hughes. I really enjoyed the way he rode racehorses. I always felt he rode them how they should be ridden. He got the most out of them without giving them hard races.
Yeah, I completely agree, Angus. I mean, there've just been certain jockeys, haven't there, that just really appreciate watching. You could watch them all day. Paul Carberry would have been one over jumps. He would have been one on the flat. Everybody will have their own Richard Hughes memory, but the day when they're walking on Harmonic Way, I think that was just an absolute pleasure to watch.
Yeah, no, that's the track that he loved. He rode it better than anybody else, Goodwood, Stuart, didn't he? A lot of people say, oh no, well, at Goodwood you need to pull wide, you need to make sure you get a clear run, and you need to make sure that you don't get hampered and all that sort of stuff. Well, Hughesy used to always go the brave way, and he never took the easy way out, yet he was the best jockey there.
One of the hardest tracks, or I guess what must be one of the hardest tracks for any flat jockey to ride, with its camber, its undulation, the figure of 8 on the round course, and just everything really conspiring against you to try and win a race on a good horse there. I suppose, Angus, for me, really, and you summed it up very well, but for one word, I think, if I had for Richard Hughes in the saddle, would be artistry. Mm-hmm. I think that's the best way of summing it up.
Yeah, he was pure class in the saddle, wasn't he? I always remember the win in the Nunthorpe, Mark, on Soul Power, wasn't it, when he had absolutely nowhere to go. I think it was in 2014. He had nowhere to go. He was stuck in behind horses, and a fair bit to do as well at the furlong pole. But somehow he found his way through and got up to win narrowly. He beat Step a Point that day.
Yeah, absolutely. He obviously had some big days at York as well. You mentioned Soul Power. I remember Oasis Dream as well. He was probably as good a sprinter as he would have ridden during his career. But you know, when he rode those Hannon 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, the likes of Canford Cliffs, Paco Boy, they're almost just like a license to print money. He was exceptional on those sort of horses.
Yeah, I thought thought Soul Power summed him up really. He's a horse who had to be held up, had to be dropped in. He's a strong travelling horse, had to be delivered right too, and Richard Hughes could do that better than anybody. And of course now he's a successful trainer, and he's going from strength to strength as far as that discipline is concerned. And they're much missed, aren't they? AP McCoy and Richard Hughes both retiring in 2015. They're still with us, very sadly. Pat Adri is no longer with us. We lost him in 2015. He had, well, an illustrious career. We could have shown you lots and lots of his Group 1 successes, but in order to honour his memory, Mark, we decided to show Rainbow Quest in the Coronation Cup in 1985.
Yeah, this probably wasn't the best horse that Pat rode, but I mean, it's just a cheeky ride. I'm sure you'll appreciate watching this. Ray Guest on the far side, he just had no answer on Old Country, but no, Pat was one of the legends when I was growing up. 4,633 winners I think he rode, 14 classic winners. He probably won't have ridden many easier winners than this. He was a true legend. El Gran Signor, Dancing Brave, Zaphonic, etc. Again, he was associated with some magnificent horses.
Oh, he really was. Yeah, he really was. Saunter into success in 85 in the Coronation Cup. One of the legends of our sport, Pat Adri, who we lost in 2015, and a legend behind the microphone, Sir Peter O'Sullivan, unfortunately lost his life in 2015 as well. I'm sure, Stuart, a man who inspired you over the years.
Oh, look, his voice was synonymous with racing, wasn't it? From the late 50s right up and through until the late 90s, his final call in the 1997 Hennessy. And yeah, growing up as a kid, I think anybody who had pretensions to being a commentator then wanted to be the next Peter O'Sullivan. Nobody's ever going to be the next Peter O'Sullivan. But for me, growing up sort of through the late 70s, through the 80s as well, his voice was the one that you heard every Saturday on all the big races.
Yeah, he had such a fantastic voice, didn't he? I was on Saturday looking back at previous Grand Nationals, and every time you listen to his commentary in 1974 of Red Rum winning his third Grand National, your spine tingles, not just because it's Red Rum winning his third National, but because the way that Sir Peter described it.
And I think that is the hardest act as a commentator, is to put words to what you're seeing. And I can always remember in the early days of when I was commentating on Channel 4, Andrew Franklin saying to me that one of the key aspects was to add to the pictures, not simply to describe what you can see, because everybody else can see what you can see as well. And in some cases, they probably got a better view of it than you have. But if you can add to the pictures, then you're halfway towards doing a decent job. And that's exactly what Sir Peter did. He added to the pictures. And I think as well, he had this uncanny knack of making the viewer and the listener always feel comfortable. You always felt reassured whenever you were listening to Sir Peter commentating.
Yeah, you certainly did, Stuart. And sadly, we lost him in 2015. In the same year, at York, Mecca's Angel won the Nunthorpe Stakes. So one for the North, beating Acapulco, the Wesley Ward Raider. And Mecca's Angel was ridden by Paul Mulrennan, who joins me on the line. Hello, Paul. How are you, mate, in these difficult times?
Yeah, how are you doing, Angus?
I'm okay, thanks.
Well,
you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks.
Good, good. Are you keeping yourself as busy as you can?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm still riding out most mornings, so keep myself fit and that. I'm lucky I've got a little bit of a gym here at home, so I can keep myself ticking over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's a big shock to everybody, isn't it? What's happened?
Yeah, it sure is. God willing, we'll be back at the track competitively in the near future. Let's reflect though on 2015, a marvellous year for you, and the filly as she was then, Mecca's Angel winning the Nunthorpe. Just take us through the race, Paul.
I just wanted to touch on that actually, as you were just speaking to Stuart.
Yeah.
There, the commentary actually of the Nunthorpe that year was very good to watch, wasn't it? I think Stuart Machen that done the commentary that year. He was very good. I can always remember watching back. His tone of voice, it looked like Acapulco. He kicked clear and was going to go and win the race, and then obviously he could hear him screaming, and here comes Mecca's Angel. No, it was a great day. I think if you remember, I was quite emotional afterwards.
Yes.
And I think just being a northern jockey and everything, it's very special to have it at York as well. It's a track I've always been very lucky at.
Yeah, just tell us, just take us through the race from when the stalls opened. How did it go for you? Did it all go to plan? Were you always happy?
Yeah, I was never in any doubt. Everything went right. She went down to the start, brilliant, nice and relaxed. I remember speaking to William Derby, actually, the clerk of the course, before the race. I was drawn 10, bang in the middle, and he said to me, look, if I was riding her, I would be saying straight up the middle of the track. And I was like, right, spoke to Michael, we had our game plan. She pinged the gates, and she just relaxed lovely, and Acapulco went off quite quick, gave me a good lead. And I just mowed her down the last furlong, and it was very easy. I'd like to tell you I had to do this and that, but it was like a bit of work, to be honest with you. I didn't even have to get too serious on her. It was very easy.
Yeah, she posted a very fast time that day in beating Acapulco. When I was watching it, there was just for a few strides it looked like Acapulco might have just got away from you, but were you always confident?
Yeah, I was always very confident. I just always felt I was only in second gear throughout the race. She travelled so well. She had very high cruising speed. Obviously, I was giving quite a bit of weight away to Acapulco, but we knew how good Mecca's Angel was, and she'd come out of the Curragh race very well. I know she got beat by Stepper Point that day, but she was absolutely bouncing, and she was cherry ripe that day. She looked $1 million, and the ground was perfect. Everything was just A1.
Yeah, it was a sensational performance. Of course, she went on to win it again the following year as well. And I felt that the performance in 2015 proved that she handled good ground, because there was a lot of people always used to say she definitely wanted cut, but it was good ground that day at York, wasn't it?
It was beautiful ground that day at York, as it always is. She loved York. I mean, a lot of people forget she broke the track record in Longchamp. I think she still holds the record now. And you don't break track records on soft ground. She didn't need extreme soft, she didn't mind a bit of cut in the ground, but she just didn't want it rattling fast. That's why Michael pulled her out in 2015 at Royal Ascot. And I remember thinking that day, oh, bloody hell, I'll never get a chance to win Group 1, because she was, I think she was favoured that day at Royal Ascot. But obviously, she went back to York then and won.
Yeah, the sort of sharp 5 furlongs really suited her, didn't it? That was her game, really.
Yeah, she had tons and tons of speed. I think that's why York just suited her down to the ground, just top of the ground. Michael's horses do seem to have a very good record at York. I don't know what his strike rate is there, but he always seems to have a lot of winners at York. It seems to suit our horses there for some reason. Yeah, and as you said, I want to touch on the fact about what this meant to you, really. You were very, very emotional afterwards. Just explain why it meant so much to you. I think as well, I'm not really racing background. I never sat on a horse until I was 16. How old am I now? 37, so that was 5 years ago. So I was in my early 30s there. I've worked quite hard I've stuck at it to get these opportunities, and I know how hard this game is, and them good horses are very hard to come by. These Group 1s that just even get a ride in them is hard, but to win one at York as well. I lost my claim at York for Mick Easterby on Blue Spinnaker. I've always had a lot of luck there, and I think that day when I come in, the crowd that were there applauding us, it was just unbelievable. And my family was there as well. Adele was there. My daughter Scarlett was there. No, it was a very special day. Yeah, and a word for David Metcalf, who owned Mecca's Angel, and Michael Dodds, who handled her so well and placed her so very well. Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at Mecca's Angel's record, she didn't actually run that often. Michael was very, very patient with her. But David Metcalf, a good owner, he was very understanding. He let Michael just get on with it, let Michael do what he does best. He knew the filly inside out. He never abused her, running her. He didn't go to every gig. He always sort of knew York was her track, and that's why he waited and he didn't abuse her. He didn't run her every week, Yeah, no, she struck me as she was always a little bit better when she was fresh. Yeah, no, I think them sprinters are a bit like that. You're better off having them like coiled springs, aren't you? Having them really bouncing. it's just that fine line, isn't it? Not having them too fresh, but you want them bouncing. And yeah, Michael certainly he done a great job with her, and all the team at home as well.
Yeah, if you look at some of the times that she's run, I mean, I look at time figures. Paul, some people don't believe in them. I like them. She's right up there with some of the best sprinters we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, listen, on her day, I think she was as good as any. I've been lucky to ride some good fillies over the last couple of years. Was the one, Mab's Cross was another one, but Mecca's Angel on her day was right up there with the best of them when things felt right for her.
Yeah, best horse you've ever ridden then?
Yes, definitely. Best sprinter I've ever ridden yet, 100%, yeah. Could do with another one, and I'm on the lookout for another one.
Are you? Yeah, well, let's hope Michael's got one somewhere on the horizon for you. You never know.
Well, he's got some nice prospects up there now. We've got Queen's Gift and Kiyomura. I'm not saying they're going to get to Group 1 level, but they're nice sprinting type fillies that cruised last year, and I've seen them this year. They've strengthened up well over the winter, and hopefully they'll have a good solid year.
Great. Always on the hunt for the next one, Paul.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, listen, mate, thanks for joining us. It's been good to talk to you. I hope you stay fit and healthy over the next few weeks, and we'll see you back on a racecourse soon with a bit of luck.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Pleasure. It's nice to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Good luck now. Bye.
Right, Paul Mulrennan, Mecca's Angel. Happy memories of York, really. She loved that track, Mark, didn't she? She's a dual Nunthorpe winner. The fast 5 furlongs was right up her street. And when she launched to go and attack Acapulco, she was really impressive the way she surged past that Wesley Ward runner there in 2015.
She was very good indeed. And I mean, to concede £24 to a horse like Acapulco, who'd won everything before, had been really impressive at Royal Ascot, to concede that amount of weight was an excellent performance. And I think it probably meant even more to Michael Dodds, because you remember Acapulco beat Eastern Angel at Royal Ascot early in the season, so he got one back on the Americans that day. But no, she was a great mare, and then to go back the following year and to do it again shows it wasn't a fluke by any means.
No, indeed. Stuart, Paul praising you there for your call now. I'm hoping that it was you.
It was me doing the race call, yes, in that year's Nunthorpe. I do remember the race quite vividly, not for anything that I might have said during it, but it was interesting, wasn't it, listening to Paul speak there, that he underplayed his part, I think, on Mecca's Angel in that race. So I'll never know what it's like to ride in a race, and I'll certainly never know what it's like to ride over 5 furlongs in a Group 1 contest in a race like the Nunthorpe. And that sort of race on decent ground at York, that must be about as quick and as slick as it's ever likely to happen. You imagine the pressure that Paul must have been under going into the stalls in that race, on that filly, in a Group 1 contest, and by the way, you've got X number of split-second decisions to make, and you've got less than 60 seconds in which to make them. And any one of those decisions is wrong, and you can turn a win into a loss. Well, he'd executed it absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, he did. And remember, when it came to 2016 when she won, Stuart, she got very close to the De Jure track record, which has stood since 1990. No horse has got anywhere near it, and she's got closest.
It's remarkable, isn't it, when you think about it in those terms? And we can all remember just how good a sprinter De Jure was, and just what a lightning burst of speed he had, and how he could maintain it over a sprint trip. So for her to get within a shadow of that is a tremendous performance.
Yeah, gents, we may not have time to show your favourite races from 2015, but perhaps verbally, if you could mention them. We have looked at them already. Mark, your favourite horse stroke race from 2015 was?
It was Vautour in the JLT that we saw earlier in the programme. I just thought when he was right, when it came to the Cheltenham Festival, Willie Mullins had him spot on, and that day I don't think any horse would have beaten him. No.
Stuart, yours?
Oh, many clouds in the National for me. Look, I'm happy to go on record as saying that I think the National is the world's greatest race. It's the supreme test of fitness, stamina, bravery, agility, and of a horse and jockey acting as one. And I think Many Clouds and Lake Naspel were a perfect example of that in the 2015 National.
Brilliant stuff. Mark Howard, Stuart Machin, thank you very much indeed, lads, for joining me on the show today to reflect on 2015. We'll hear from you again very soon, no doubt, here on Racing TV. Thank you to my guests as well this afternoon. Great to hear from Frankie Dettori reflecting on Golden Horn, Sarah Bradstock talking about Gold Cup winner Kody Green in 2015, and Paul Mulrennan, who won the Nunthorpe on Mecca's Angel. That, ladies and gentlemen, was 2015. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.